The Africans came way later, 1900s later. I put that on screen. We were not brought over here by way of slave ships. I put that on screen. I showed you that there was no such thing as a slave ship. I put that on screen. Number one, they couldn't come straight across the Atlantic with the ocean gyres there. They would be lost to sea. Number two, you're not about to fit 100, 200, nobody on a sailboat. They can't carry that much weight on a sailboat. Don't forget that they're calling them ships, but they were boats. Wherries, rowboats, those are small. The cargo ships came in the 1850s, and the first 3 cargo ships were owned by 3 different people, and those cargo ships were not being utilized commercially. The commercial use of the cargo ships came in the late 1850s. By that time, you had what, 10, 15 years more until slavery was allegedly abolished?
I will not be debating Dane Calloway.
First of all, we must internalize the flatulation of the matter by transmitting the effervescence of the Indonesian proximity in order to further segregate the crux of my venereal infection. Now, if I may retain my liquids here for one moment, I'd like to continue the redundance of my quote-unquote intestinal tract, see, because to preclude on the issue of world domination would only circumvent, circumcise the revelation that it reflects the aphrodisiac symptoms which now perpetrates the Jericho's activation. So, do not misinterpret the chauvinistic...
Give to the United Negro Scholarship Fund, because a mind is a terrible thing to develop without help.
Allow me to expose my colon once again. The ramification inflicted on the incision placed within the fallopian cavities serves to be holistic, taken from the Latin word jalapeno.
In today's society of America, there is an identity crisis with so-called Black Americans only that I have been exposing ever since I joined YouTube to present publicly verifiable evidence along with historical documented information that our people are not familiar with, in hopes that we may correct this nail-biting major issue amongst ourselves as one whole community. Ever since the 1960s, our people were slowly adopting the historically derogatory term Black as a descriptive means that refers to us as a group of people benevolently, by way of young children who were college students under the influence of indoctrinating school curriculums, various religious beliefs, and of course, political correctness.
When I was growing up, to call a person of color like myself or others Black was considered derogatory. That's just a fact. You know, you call somebody Black, those were fighting words. Those were fighting words.
Throughout my previous documentaries, I've shared detailed information concerning the reasons why the term Black should not be associated with us as a descriptive means. And in this segment, I will prove why those so-called Pan-Africanists stemming from the mid-1900s and beyond are royally incorrect with their most popular outlandish claim that our ancestors and their offsprings of today are of African descent. In order to comprehend and develop an understanding of what I'm about to mention next, one must allow themselves the opportunity to think freely, without any restriction, hesitation, or any form of negative influence based on their own personal beliefs. Because this is not about what you may believe. This is strictly about what you know and what you are willing to find out on your own. For starters, our eldest family members of so-called Black American households only did not inform their grand and or their great-grandchildren about being descendants of African slaves that were allegedly captured by small waves of anonymous palefaces who were pirates of sailboats and later cargo ships. This story sprung about around the 1950s by way of school teachers and college professors whose sole job was to indoctrinate the mindsets of the children who were sent to these federalized institutions in order to learn about their history from strangers. The old saying around this time period that is still popularized in use today was to never trust a stranger. But of course, we can all see that school teachers and college professors are somehow an exception from this general rule, being as though they carry the responsibility of teaching the next generation up, who are the students that are forced to learn about everything they teach uncritically. And unfortunately, that also included their history. And then these same children grew into their adulthoods, regurgitating these same stories about their history that they learned from their teachers and not their individual families, which has caused a generational identity crisis within our communities systematically. To prevent this major issue from reoccurring, we must swallow the pills of truth, no matter how difficult it may be for some to do so, by debunking the various pseudo-theories surrounding our identities that many of our people have adopted as their history. For example, many of our people today have been led astray by various self-proclaimed street scholars of Pan-Africanism ideologies, theories, and outlandish claims of the 1960s, without questioning its accuracy or validity of whether it's right or wrong or has any truth to stand on to begin with. You will find a few of these actors and actresses fighting hard to keep their pseudoscience afloat amongst our communities by latching themselves onto various trending topics that will arise and converting their opinions from that trending topic into their true agenda, which is to continuously campaign the Out of Africa theory in hopes that more people would join their We Are Africans diaspora movement for their own personal monetary gain. Ever since I created my channel and brought the truth to the public's attention, people who have been heavily invested in capitalizing on our people's ignorance concerning their true identities have created various slander campaigns against me in hopes that I'll fade away, or shut up, or even join them or assist them by keeping our people in the dark and get paid for doing so. But as many of you know, I did not cave in, and I have pasted my foot on the gas pedal with super glue with presenting the truth to the public. And over the years, I have assisted thousands of our people with identifying themselves for who they truly are, and have presented undeniable truths with multiple sources of publicly verifiable evidence concerning what really happened with our people here in America, aka Turtle Island. And so now, many of you are coming after those people who are banking on the ignorance of our vulnerable people not knowing their true identities. And the truth is finally being promoted, delivered, and accepted, no matter who likes it or not. So, since one of these individuals of the Pan-Africanist ideology stated yet another false claim and attempts to belittle our people for knowing just who we really are, I'll be sure to adjust him right now with the absolute truth.
Nah, I'm not going to entertain you indigenous Negroes today. See, the word indigenous is not an indigenous word. Did you know that? Did you know that? Did you know the word aboriginal is not an aboriginal word? Did you know that? So you want to keep on having these intellectual punching matches. You want to intellectually masturbate words. You want a word fight. You want to fight over words. Well, here's a little word fight for you. The word Africa is older than the word aboriginal and indigenous. Let me say it again. The word Africa is older than the word aboriginal and indigenous. Let me say it again. The word Africa is older than the word aboriginal and indigenous. Furthermore, the word Africa comes from the original Nile Valley tongue of our first ancestors, Africa, and it means, under some interpretations, birth of man.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And it means, under other interpretations, from the Spirit of God.
What the hell are you talking about?
And there's multiple interpretations of the word Africa, but what we all understand about Africa is that it is indigenous to Africa. It is aboriginal to Africa. It is native to Africa.
Talk more shit than a little bit. Back to Mother Africa. That's bullshit. You do not know a goddamn thing about Africa.
The word aboriginal comes from a white man, and the word indigenous comes from another white man. The word Africa comes from the black man.
Now look, what he just stated is called misinformation, simply because it is not true at all. The name Africa was not historically referring to the entire landmass that Americans call Africa today. In fact, the name Africa is derived from the indigenous Afri people of Carthage, which is a small ancient city within the Kingdom of Tunisia that later became known as Africa historically. It neighbored other Berber inhabited locations like Tunis, which is the largest city of Tunisia, Algeria, Rome, Morocco, and especially Libya, being part of the Maghreb region along the Mediterranean Sea. These Afri people of ancient Carthage were historically known to be of pale-skinned complexions, adopting much of ancient Roman traditions, cultures, and spiritual practices over the years. According to National Geographic, as ancient Rome, which was Carthage's neighbor in the Mediterranean, grew in power and expanded, a conflict between the two civilizations became inevitable. The rivalry between Carthage and Rome eventually erupted into the three Punic Wars, fought on land and sea. And when the smoke cleared, Carthage, along with the entire landmass of Tunisia, was captured by the Roman Empire in 146 BC. The Netherlands was part of the Roman Empire during this time period, which indicates that Dutch-speaking Afri-Berber people inhabited Carthage before and after its government's collapse for 500 years until the invasion of the Arabs during the 7th century. Large groups of these Africans migrated to the southernmost regions of Ethiopia during the wars. And even today, they refer to themselves as Afrikaners. paying tribute to their ancestors of Carthage, along with other Roman European landmasses like the Netherlands. And their Dutch-inspired native language is called Afrikaans, which was brought to the southernmost regions of what Americans call South Africa today by way of Protestant settlers of the 17th century. So now you know for sure that a so-called black man did not create the term Africa. And that shouldn't matter anyway, whether if it was created by a black or white man, because you're still spreading false information no matter how you put it. And if these stories were true, which they are not, that our teachers in school taught us concerning our identities being of African descent, then that means the story must change from stating that our ancestors were captured from the west coast of Africa and then brought to the Americas by way of the slave trade. Because the original inhabitants of what we call West Africa today did not refer to themselves as Africans in any way, shape, or form. But the people of Libya referred to their landmass as Africa, and even the Latin definition of the word Africa confirms that. The out of Africa theory is just that. It's a theory, an assumption, a guess, an idea, a thought that has never been proven merely because it has no truth to stand on. This is why the government wants you to believe that our people came off of so-called slave ships from Africa, because they will continue to expand their foreign empire right here on our true motherland, right up under our noses, literally banking billions off of our people's ignorance about who they truly are. But this all stops right now. I'm just here to make you think.